Quick note before the episode, we actually recorded this one a few weeks ago. We knew that there were a lot of shows coming out in October that we wanted to get to. And the Charlie Puth Show, it seemed like the perfect opportunity because they released all the episodes on Roku, and not a lot of people have Roku, that we could put it for a week or two later release. Right. And then, unfortunately, October 16th happens, and Liam Payne, one of the main members of One Direction, passes away. If people aren't aware, in the Charlie Puth Show, a big plot line, which we'll talk about in the show, is him trying to bring the band back together.
Get them to do a reunion.
Obviously, we would have approached that storyline differently, knowing what we know now. But I just wanted to point that out so no one was confused when they listened and heard us talking about it like it was nothing. But thank you for listening, and we'll get back to the show. Welcome back to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. Today, we'll be diving into the first season of The Charlie Puth Show, a mockumentary series recently released on, believe it or not, the Roku Channel. I think we've only ever done one other show on the Roku
Spiderwick Chronicles.
Spiderwick Chronicles, and that was bought up from a different network.
That was originally on Disney Plus.
However, this was clearly made by Roku because half of the show, actually, I would say 100% of the show, is him just trying to sell the idea of making the Roku show.
The first episode is him having to write a jingle for Roku TV with John Legend.
Him being Charlie Puth, right? The titular Charlie Puth, the artist, 32 years old, married last month, from New Jersey. He started as a YouTuber posting comedy videos and also acoustic covers. Breakthrough came with See You Again in 2015, a tribute to Paul Walker.
Wait, so that was actually like his first big song? Because I thought he was famous before then.
He was writing material, I think, for other artists. And then he said, I want to do this one myself. Otherwise, you can't have it. And they said, fine. And so that's how he broke into the industry. Soon after that, he had his debut album in 2016, 9-track Mind, featuring hits like Marvin Gaye and One Call Away. Is it supposed to rhyme? Probably, because, okay. And so he's had a lot of success in the mid 2010s. And then by 2019, he had Elton John saying his music sucked, but only his present music, as if his 2019 music.
Wait, so Elton John insulted his music?
Famously, apparently they had a conversation where he was like, you just didn't have it this year. And so that's why he tried to rebrand a couple times. And obviously his music is still very popular, right?
Yeah.
But I guess this show is just another means to get his fans to pay attention and get to see him. He's also been very active on social media, Instagram, TikTok. And you kind of see that in this show because of all the celebrities and TikTok celebrities that you get.
And the best thing about this series, I think, is Charlie Puth, because there are multiple times, especially in the first few episodes, where even when he's giving his performance, it looks like he's a second away from busting out laughing. I don't know if you got that, but I thought that it gave the series more of an authentic feel with that.
So it wasn't like he was breaking character.
No, but you could tell that he had a lot of enjoyment when he was
it was his idea. So unlike the Throwback, or Mr. Throwback, right?
Mr. Throwback.
Steph Curry show that we did last month, which was pitched to him, saying we're going to have this like fictionalized version of you. It's going to be a little absurd, but you are going to be presented in the best light. You're going to be amazing at everything you do, from golfing to basketball, like in real life. But with Charlie Puth, he thought about this during the pandemic. He was like, I want to do something fun. I want to return to my roots, do something YouTube-ish. And that's what he made. So he had no problem making fun of himself in this light. However, it does seem like that all goes out the window when he's talking about his musical talent and the idea that he has perfect pitch. Because he likes to talk about his perfect pitch a lot. And you know what that is, right?
It's like where you can tell what a note is without hearing it or something?
With hearing it.
With hearing it. Yeah, note, right.
And then suddenly you know exactly what ABCD.
I meant without being told it, but like, you can hear it and you can be like, see if it's a...
And there's like a lot of facts on this. So like, apparently it's very rare. 1 in 10,000 people. However, that case has never been like 100% confirmed. So what I'll tell you a personal instance. When I was in band in high school, I remember my friends talking about it. And there was another guy who like came up and he was like, I had perfect pitch. And they started like testing him on things.
Yeah.
Turns out he had relative pitch. So he was able to like sing his way to the correct note. But perfect pitch can be taught from what they understand. You just have to learn it at an early enough age. And most people who have perfect pitch, you might have heard of a few of them: Mozart, Beethoven,
of course,
Freddie Mercury, Michael Jackson, they believe, Jimi Hendrix, Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey must be tough because no offense to her, but like her later stuff, when she sings, if you ever hear her live performances, she can't hit the same notes she used to be able to, so it must annoy the heck out of her.
The only one I knew for a fact out of the 7 you mentioned were Freddie Mercury. I knew that he had perfect pitch.
You did know that he had perfect pitch. Celine Dion, Carole King, Yo-Yo Ma. None of these were surprising. The youngest on the list, besides for Charlie Puth, is Jacob Collier. And I am not surprised that he's on there because that guy probably has absolute timing as well, which allows you to know exactly the amount of space between. Have you seen his performances?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
You know he's worked with Lawrence before.
Yes, that's how I know him.
Okay. And you're about to go see their concert.
Yeah, been like 2 days.
Cool. All right. So perfect pitch is a real thing. He likes to brag about a lot, Charlie Puth on his show. But on the other end of the spectrum, he is making fun of himself in most of these 6 episodes. So why don't you go ahead and rate them?
Rate them in order of greatest.
Best to worst.
Best to worst? Okay. So episode 2, 1, 6.
Wait. Don't do it that way. So which was your favorite episode?
Okay. Lonely Fans. That's the second episode.
All right. That's your favorite episode?
Yeah. And then the first one, I think, is the second
pilot.
best. Yes, the pilot. Welcome to Roku City.
Okay.
The finale, Some Direction, is my third favorite.
Virtually the same picks. I would say I like the first episode a little bit more than the second episode, but the first one, the second one, and the sixth one were all worth listening or watching.
And then the fourth one is my fourth favorite, Roots. And then I have kind of a tie between Weirdo, the Charlie Puth story, the third
Weird
episode,
Al one?
And Merch Madness as kind of like a tie for last.
Okay. I would probably put the one where they had the shaman outside. I think that is the fourth episode.
Yeah.
I would probably put that as my least favorite episode. And then the Weird Al one and the fifth episode, the Merch one, I feel like they both had redeeming qualities and could be more in the middle. It seemed like for a little bit that they were getting worse every single episode until the finale.
It's strange you say that because after the first 2 episodes, I was shocked because I thought that I was going to come on here and say that we're dealing with one of the best shows of the year. I gave the first episode, Welcome to Roku City, the John Legend where they have to make a jingle, an 8 out of 10. And Lonely Fans, I think, is one of the funniest episodes I've seen of any comedy this year. I do give it a 9 out of 10. So I
remember how the second episode started with him almost like he's just wearing exercise shorts,
right?
And he's on like a Peloton, and he's talking to his oldest fan,
75 years old.
It was so cringy though to see him like on the bike and just talking to a fan. I thought immediately like, oh no, what they did with the pilot, which was so interesting. This is going to make it really cringy, and then the emphasis of the show became that he was dating a 75.
So I agree with you. When it started off and I saw Ruby, because that's his Gen Z manager, taking pictures, I was afraid about where the episode was going. But the fact that it became a national phenomenon, and by the end of the episode, Charlie Puth actually wanted to date her, I was laughing so hard at the very end.
And John Mayer had a relationship.
It has the most cameos out of all of them. As well. Yeah,
Dr. Phil's there. I know
Dr. Phil. I don't want to give too many away, but there's a couple more
advertising
afterwards.
The show at the same time. So we're not doing a full review where we break down every single episode. That's fair because there's no critical reception in this. And that's because no one's seen it. This is a Roku Channel show and not a lot of people. Now, to those few who do have Roku, it has been plastered in front of them whenever they go on the site.
And there's only, like you said, there's only 6 episodes. They are incredibly short. I mean, like 20 minutes. And that's why I feel like they even refer to it as Curb Your Enthusiasm, or they bring it up in the 3rd episode. But I have like an ingredients list for this show. Basically what you would have to mix and you kind of get good.
In another way, your comparisons.
Yes. Because it's 2 cups of Curb Your Enthusiasm, One Cup of Dave FX follows famous musicians playing hyper-fictionalized versions of themselves.
Can we go through one by one? Because with Dave, it feels like that show, he was more open with him. So, like, Charlie Puth is open to an extent. Like, they just use humor to kind of delay the serious stuff. It's not like we ever meet his fiance, the person who he just married, like, in that show. But with Dave, it was like he was using his real relationships and real issues to bring those to the front, and they weren't always happy. Like, the season finales were...
When it gets to Curb Your Enthusiasm, Dave, or even Half a Cup of Atlanta, which I also brought up, all those three shows are darker than this is. This actually has the weird thing of having a heart to it, because you would think a lot more of these shows would have kind of heart. You are going for Charlie Puth
and I agree with Dave because they're both musicians, and you both see the managers and how goofy it is that they're trying to promote themselves, and you kind of have that similar personality in certain extents. The funny thing about Dave is there was that episode, right, where he made super good friends with the Benny.
Right. That was season 2.
Do you know what his last name is?
Benny Blanco.
Yes, and Charlie Puth has a huge beef that was publicized with Benny Blanco a few years ago. I think originally it had started off, and this is, again, might be completely off base, but I think it was originally a fake beef, but then Benny Blanco went like too hard with his insults to a point where it became real, and you had people like Billie Eilish coming out of the woodwork trying to defend Charlie Puth. I don't know. You'd want to read. It's not Lamar. It's not Kendrick versus Drake or whatever.
Well, then I had 1 teaspoon of the unbearable weight of massive talent. Because
I also wanted to push back on your Atlanta one, though. So why exactly are you saying this is like Atlanta?
Comedy, and it focuses on singers.
But it's never that, like, it never gets that deep or crazy, or I guess maybe the manager, Ern.
Once again, that's why I'm saying they're both comedies. That's why it's Half a Cup, because Curb Your Enthusiasm, I think you understand completely where that connection comes in.
He made that connection.
Yeah, right.
He said that he was improvised. Not only did they improvise 95% of these scenes, but it was 100% inspired by Larry David's Curb Your Enthusiasm.
So then, you have 1 teaspoon of the unbearable weight of massive talent, just because it's following, that was following the actual Nick Cage. This is following the actual Charlie Puth. Mm-hmm. I had half a teaspoon of This Is the End in episodes, because I do think that those are far enough apart where the connection is a little murky. But
episodes is really good because Matt LeBlanc plays a version of himself which is both good and bad. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like Charlie Puth does take on that role. Also, in that show, they're trying to pitch Matt LeBlanc on going into a new show,
right?
Which is very much the idea that the other part of this show is that he's trying to bring back One Direction. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler.
That's the main plot. That's why he's given in the first episode.
He's trying to rebrand himself and also bring back One Direction. It's a ridiculous premise, but it seems really funny if you really give it the time to listen to him try to plot it out or play with his dolls about it.
And in that same
vein, you were going to say the Curb Your Enthusiasm thing?
Well, no, I was going to say it's also a dash of Mr. Throwback in there.
Yes, but with the Seinfeld reunion.
Yes.
How is that not the same thing as what's going on in this season, bringing back One Direction, except the difference being that, like, in the Seinfeld season, he's able to bring back all the characters within the very first episode. And we won't ruin whether or not Harry Styles, Liam, Zayn, I don't know any of the other ones, come back for this show. But you definitely get a lot of celebrities at the expense, it seems like, of the budget. It feels like this thing is shot like a YouTube sketch.
This had a shoestring budget. There's no question about it, and I fully believe that is because they probably paid a lot for the cameos that they were able to get.
I don't think they pay anything. I think what happened was that he used his phone book. He got who he could. Sure, Will Ferrell might not have been there normally, but maybe that's his neighbor. Who knows? I definitely know that they did not have too much money to make this thing. And that's why I felt like every episode got worse, because it became very creatively straining when all you could do was work in your own house and shoot it like an interesting YouTube sketch, but you always had to keep the same, you couldn't expand too much.
Well, the thing about Weirdo, the Charlie Puth story, is I think it's the worst episode because I feel like it was very slow. It's
the premise of that is that he's trying to get Weird Al, he's trying to entice him to make fun of one of his own songs.
He hopes that Weird Al Yankovic parodies his track, and then after Al's team tells him that Weird Al has declined, he decides to use AI, and then Charlie Puth kind of becomes crazy with that. It's a very similar theme to, again, the 4th and 5th episode. I actually have to disagree with you. I thought that the 4th episode, the first half of it, was really funny because, again, a root canal makes Charlie reconsider pop and turn to country. You can take any of these premises, like all episodes.
By the end of the episode, it had taken so long to get there. It was so unbalanced that I got bored and I completely forgot about the root canal. But yeah, he does a lot of jokes that come back to early internet days.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, when you take any of these premise from any of the episodes, I feel like you could see how they could really work. I enjoyed the first half of that, but the second half, I understand what you were saying. That around the time that they introduce the nature guy and he goes on this like weird quest that's supposed to be out in the desert, that's when I lost interest in it.
Right.
But kind of like you were saying, when it got to episode 6, the finale, I felt like that's when
they brought it home.
Yeah.
They took it and they said he wants to become a teacher now as opposed to a musician, and they got to bring in a bunch of kids. And I
found that very funny because
it was wholesome.
He has something like that. He has an online course where he teaches you how to make music. It's like $250. It's also
that sounds like the plot to one of these.
From what I've learned, it's not the best out of all the ones that teach you how to make music. I think it's a masterclass like thing where he's like made videos.
They literally have an episode in here where Gen Z Ruby, who's one of my favorite characters, at least at the beginning, they take her character and they try to expand it too much. Like, at first she's just like a very peppy April Ludgate.
Right.
And like, I loved her first joke, which was she had this purse that was made that she also used as a cereal bowl and that she would steal things with. It was completely clear and it was glass. And the first thing that she does when she gets into his house, and she's hired simply from the fact that she's a TikTok star and she's going to act as his manager because his real manager is too like not TV friendly.
Right.
So she sticks a pickle in it and then she walks away. A complete joke to his original YouTube series where he was like, I don't know, 15, 16 years old.
Who threw this pickle at me?
Yeah, and he's making really stupid jokes with pickles.
But the thing about Ruby Carp, I also want to talk about is, I was really glad what they did with her, because when they first introduced her, every single show now always has a character that's from Gen Z that's making fun of them. But this was one of the few times where a stereotypical character played that stereotype, but I thought worked out really well. And I agree with you. Around episodes 5 and 6, when she kind of started to turn evil, that's when I wasn't as into her character as I was, but she was really funny for like the first 4 episodes.
Because you can tell that because they brought in so many TikTok artists, I think they brought in too many. Right? That's a con. But at the same time, because they brought them in to write their own, I think, material and play it improv wise, they're able to make fun of themselves. They know that the medium that they've used to get famous is so mock worthy, right?
Yes.
And so they're able to turn that, versus if you look back at like The Crew, where they were making fun of millennials and the younger generation at that time, and it was written from an old person perspective, and they were trying to give them all these like kind of sitcom.
It was a
jokes.
lot of boomer humor.
So I think what they were able to do with her character in the first few episodes was show the dynamic difference between millennial age and Gen Z, even though they're basically just brother-sister-ish. And that's how millennials are treated by Gen Z, is kind of like the older brother or older sister that they can tease.
Absolutely, you know? Because I think that Charlie Puth also, even though he is the main character, him not being the voice of reason, really that being his best friend Mike O'Donnell, at least in the show, he's more the voice of reason for a majority of the episodes, and that allows Charlie Puth to just kind of act crazy, which he was surprisingly good at.
Mike plays the straight man until like huge things happen. When he's in front of his agents, or the Roku agents, I should say, because he has this momager there.
Yeah. Who
gets a Kris Jenner haircut halfway through the series, and just from what I'm learning, got a deal because of the show, got signed on as an actual actress, because a lot of these people, his surrounding cast, don't actually have other acting careers.
Mike O'Donnell is his actual name, but this is the only thing he's been in.
Well, that's his friend. That's his real life friend.
Yeah. Right.
So the Ruby character, but Charlie Puth will be serious or be the smart one in the room when it's in front of the Roku people.
Right. Yeah, that is true.
Or if it's that takes exception if John Legend is there. Which, it's crazy they got John Legend. John Legend was in Curb. Rosie O'Donnell was in Curb.
John Legend was also in the Between Two Ferns movie. I find it strange.
Ross was also in Curb, and they got the other character from Friends. I won't ruin who, unless I already said.
But I find it funny that John Legend has kind of been typecast whenever he's going to play a cameo as an evil version of himself, because that's all he plays. You saw him Between Two Ferns. Yeah, you saw it in here. He's supposed to be someone that Charlie Puth is not like.
His Grammy.
He didn't know that she stole his Grammy.
And that reminds me back to what you were talking about with his masterclass, Charlie Puth's masterclass, how he was upset to learn that his stuff was being sold out from under him by Ruby. He didn't know it was Ruby, though. And she had put his hair from his brain up online for hundreds of dollars, and they were making fun of the fact that people would buy it for that.
That goes into some of my cons. So at the very end, there's some storylines that never get resolved, kind of like the Ruby thing. As far as it being introduced that she is the one that's running the Etsy, that's kind of it. They never really expand on it at all. I also felt like
they leave room for season 2.
Well, do you think it's going to get a season 2 is my question.
I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I think it'll all just depend on whether or not it gets any sort of traction.
Midway through, again, starting with episode 3 and ending with episode 5, they were slower moving, and while they did have funny parts, it didn't make me laugh as hard, and I thought they were a drop in quality. And also, the show is not winning any awards. It was made on a shoestring budget, and it's nothing amazing. But
it would win YouTube awards, though.
Yes, it would. And I think
it feels like those mid-episodes had scenes that should have been left on the cutting room floor for a YouTube sketch that went on too long.
And although my scores don't really equal out the same, because I have first episode 8 out of 10, second episode 9 out of 10, third episode 4 out of 10, fourth episode 6 out of 10, fifth episode 4 out of 10, and the sixth episode 7 out of 10, I'm going to give the overall series a 7 out of 10. What about you? What would you rate it?
I'd bump that 7. That seems like a fair rating. The one comparison that I don't think that, or maybe you made it, but it was like one of the small ones I just missed. It was staged. Because, I mean, David Tennant and Michael Sheen both play a crazy version of themselves that is sometimes shown to be too selfish or too over the top. And they also were arguing with their managers, and they also were making a fake version of their show, which then gets released at the end.
I didn't have staged, but that is a good comparison, because a lot of the cameos that they have is Charlie Puth speaking over an iPad to someone. I mean, they do have some people in real life, but most of the ones that they show, like even the Dr. Phil one, is on a robot.
Like, we can't overstress how many celebrities they were able to bring in, because it was, for this type of show, I would have guessed 1 or 2 or 3, but instead it was over a dozen.
Well, that's my question, which is Roku just assigned to do this now because it had the Weird Al Yankovic story, and that got like 92% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And it has Daniel Radcliffe dressed up as Weird Al. Yeah. And in this, we have Charlie Puth dressed up as Weird Al.
Yes. And that was a complete parody. Then you have the Real Bros of Simi Valley, which was on July 5th. That's a parody of reality shows. And now you have the Charlie Puth Show, which is just
the Jimmy Tatro show thing that I thought was a YouTube sketch this whole time was actually a Roku movie?
That was a Roku movie. And it was...
no wonder. Because whenever I was thinking about this could be on YouTube, I was thinking about that. Yeah. Oh, okay.
And then, the Charlie Puth Show, this is a mockumentary. So I feel like that this is kind of the way that Roku is going now. They're just doing a lot of parodies.
Okay. Again, without giving too many spoilers away, probably my favorite moment was in the second episode when they were able to use one of his songs in the actual thing. In fact, I will put another con on there. He's such a good artist. They did such stupid little jingles throughout the thing, but they never had him actually come up with one new song for the show.
I mean, at the end.
No, I don't count that.
You don't count the end song?
It was less than a minute, and it was sung by not him for the most part. So no, but I did like how they paid homage to a lot of other comedies out there. And I think that overall it is deserving of a watch for episodes 1, 2, and 6. You don't even have to watch 3, 4, or 5. You understand the premise. It'll transfer right over.
Right.
It's not one of those shows where you need to watch every single episode.
If you like Charlie Puth, you're going to like it. Even if you
don't like Charlie Puth.
If you don't know him, I think you're going to like it. The only people that I think won't like this will probably be people that hate Charlie Puth, and they're not going to be interested in the show anyways.
He wasn't afraid to also throw shade at certain people, like Justin Timberlake got some insults, Sean Williams got some insults.
Leonardo
DiCaprio, but nothing that they wouldn't be able to mend over later on, right? I guess. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.